The dark water of the Forrester Creations estate lake shimmered under the soft glow of the moon, casting an eerie, silvery light across the expanse. It was a tranquil scene, one that seemed miles removed from the tension and deceit brewing behind the walls of the family business. Yet, beneath the calm, a storm was gathering. Brooke Logan had always been a woman of strength, grace, and unyielding resolve, but tonight, she was stepping into the heart of a nightmare she hadn't fully prepared for. Brooke had been digging into something dangerous, something that had been hidden beneath layers of Forrester Creations' polished surface for far too long. Whispers of sabotage, embezzlement, and corporate espionage had reached her ears, and her instincts told her that someone was trying to take down her family from the inside. The more she unearthed, the more unsettling the puzzle pieces became. She had no idea who was behind the conspiracy, but she knew the truth was dangerously close. She couldn't leave it alone, not with everything the Forrester name had built at stake. On that night, Brooke had decided to confront her suspicions head-on, walking alone down the shadowed path by the lake. Her heart raced not just with fear, but with the adrenaline of knowing she was about to discover something critical, something that would change everything. She didn't expect the cold grip of someone's hand tightening around her wrist, yanking her into the shadows. Before she could react, a familiar, but long-forgotten face appeared from the darkness. Luna Nozawa, the woman who had once haunted the periphery of her life, was standing there, her eyes gleaming with a dangerous mix of resolve and madness. Brooke's breath caught in her throat, but before she could speak, Luna pulled her backward, forcefully, her hand still clutching her wrist as she dragged Brooke to the edge of the lake. "Brooke," Luna's voice was a low whisper, almost tender, but laced with venom. "You've been digging where you shouldn't. You've been too curious." Brooke struggled against Luna's grip, trying to break free, but Luna's hold only tightened. The sound of the lake's waves crashing against the shore seemed to mock her, as though the water itself was conspiring with Luna to silence her. "Let go of me," Brooke snapped, her voice hoarse, but Luna didn't listen. In the blink of an eye, Brooke was thrown to the ground near the water's edge, the cold shock of the night air rushing through her as she tried to push herself back up. But Luna's presence was overpowering, the weight of the woman's intentions suffocating. Brooke's mind raced as she realized the severity of the situation. This wasn't a confrontation she could talk her way out of. Luna wasn't here for a chat. She had come to end something, to silence someone who knew too much. Before Brooke could make another move, Luna's voice rang out, cutting through the tension. "Do you think they'll find you? Do you think anyone will believe you're still alive? No one can save you now, Brooke. Not Ridge. Not anyone." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Brooke's chest tightened, her mind spinning as Luna's words sank in. It wasn't just a threat. Luna had thought this through, planned it, and she was going to make sure that Brooke vanished, that her name became just another forgotten whisper in the wind. And then, as if in slow motion, Luna pushed her forward. Brooke lost her balance, her feet slipping on the muddy ground, and with a final shove, she tumbled toward the dark lake below. Her body hit the water with a chilling splash, and for a moment, everything went black. The ripples in the water spread, but the silence that followed was deafening. Brooke had disappeared from the world, and with her, the final thread of the Forrester family's piece. Back at Forrester Creations, no one knew what had happened to Brooke. Her absence was immediate, profound, and unsettling. Ridge Forrester, her husband, could barely grasp the gravity of the situation. He had been in the middle of a business meeting, discussing the future of Forrester Creations, when a call came in. Brooke was missing. No one could explain it. There was no trace, no sign of where she had gone, only the suspicion that she had fallen into the lake, the water swallowing her whole without leaving a trace. Steffi and Liam were immediately on edge. They had seen the tension building in Brooke and Ridge's relationship, felt the crackling electricity between them in recent weeks, as Ridge began to harbor doubts about Brooke's investigation and the decisions she had been making. They had been growing apart, but no one could have anticipated something like this. Brooke vanishing, swallowed up by the same family secrets she had been investigating. But there was another layer to this disappearance, one that Ridge could not yet see. Luna had orchestrated it all, slipping into the shadows when Brooke had been most vulnerable. The woman who had once been a mere footnote in the Forrester family's tumultuous history had now taken center stage in a plot that would unravel everything. Luna's disappearance had not only thrown Ridge into a spiral of confusion, but it had also triggered a deeper set of emotions he hadn't been prepared for. He began to question everything: Brooke's motives, the things she had uncovered, and whether he had ever truly known the woman he had married. His trust in her had already been shaken by the distance growing between them, but now, with her missing, Ridge felt as though he had lost the last bit of stability in his life. The investigation into Brooke's disappearance quickly turned into a race against time. The police searched the lake, hoping to find some trace of her body, but there was nothing. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air, leaving nothing behind but the echoes of her absence. Ridge couldn't shake the feeling that someone was hiding something, that this wasn't just an accident. It was deliberate. But who would want to harm Brooke?
And why?
Ridge's suspicions turned toward Luna, the woman who had never truly left his thoughts, even though her presence had faded from his daily life. She had once been a shadowy figure on the fringes of the Forrester world, but now she had come into full focus as the one person with a motive to hurt Brooke. Her manipulation of Carter and Hope, her scheming, her lies, it all pointed back to one person, Luna Nozawa. Brooke's absence was tearing Ridge apart. His anger toward Luna was palpable. But deep down, he couldn't help but feel guilt. Guilt over the way he had treated Brooke in recent months, guilt over the things left unsaid between them. It was as though, in losing her, he had lost everything he had ever known about love and loyalty. Was this the end of their story? Or was it only the beginning of something far darker? In the midst of this emotional turmoil, Brooke's true fate remained unknown to everyone. As she lay hidden from the world, she was more alive than anyone could imagine. She had not drowned in the lake, nor had she been taken by the waters. Luna's plot had worked perfectly. Brooke had disappeared, her name now linked to an unsolved mystery. But this was not the end. It was only the beginning. Brooke was hiding, but she was not broken. She was planning, waiting for the right moment to expose the truth. She knew Luna's secret, and she wasn't going to let the woman who had destroyed everything take her down without a fight. But for now, from her hidden refuge, she had to let the world believe she was gone. She had to let Ridge and everyone else feel the sting of her absence. And in that silence, she would find her strength. As Luna continued to weave her web of lies, as Ridge struggled to pick up the pieces of his broken life, and as the Forrester family faced an uncertain future, one thing was certain: Brooke Logan's disappearance had set in motion a chain of events that no one could stop. The truth was waiting to be uncovered, and with it, the ultimate confrontation between love, betrayal, and the secrets that had torn them all apart. The days that followed were a blur of emotions and shifting allegiances. Ridge grew more desperate with each passing hour, torn between his need to find Brooke and his increasing distrust of those closest to him. The Forrester legacy seemed to be on the verge of collapse, and it was Luna Nozawa who had set it all in motion. In the end, it would all come down to one question: could Brooke rise from the shadows in time to stop the chaos, or would Luna finally claim victory, leaving the Forrester family fractured and broken forever? The moonlight hung heavily over the Forrester estate, casting an eerie glow on the grounds. The wind whispered through the trees, the air thick with a foreboding sense of something amiss. Brooke Logan's world, which had once been defined by power, family, and love, was now consumed by uncertainty, shadows, and deception. What had begun as a quiet night by the lake had turned into a moment of life and death, one that would unravel her life in ways she could never have imagined. It was Luna Nozawa who had drawn Brooke into this nightmare. The two women had always shared a tenuous connection, one built on betrayal and manipulation, but Luna had crossed a line that no one could have foreseen. Luna's anger, her jealousy, and her need for revenge had driven her to this moment, to the moment she would tear Brooke away from the life she had worked so hard to build. And so, with a sudden, brutal force, Luna had grabbed Brooke from behind, yanking her toward the edge of the lake. The cold, wet earth beneath them had felt like the last tether to the life Brooke once knew, but it snapped in an instant as Luna thrust her into the darkness. Brooke had fought back. She had struggled with every ounce of strength left in her, but Luna was relentless. The sound of her breath, labored and harsh, had echoed in Brooke's ears, but all she could see was the malicious gleam in Luna's eyes as she shoved Brooke toward the rocky edge. In that moment, as Brooke teetered on the brink, she realized that this was not just an attack. It was a plan. A calculated attempt to rid the world of Brooke Logan, once and for all. But Luna had underestimated Brooke. The very instinct that had kept Brooke alive in countless other dangerous situations kicked in. With a burst of energy, she managed to push Luna back for just a moment, her body trembling with fear but determined not to give in. But in that fleeting moment of freedom, Luna had acted quickly, grabbing Brooke again, pulling her with more force than ever. Before Brooke could even scream, she felt herself falling. The ground beneath her disappeared, and the next thing she knew, she was plummeting into the icy waters below. The crash was deafening. The water swallowed her whole, pulling her down into the dark abyss. For a moment, Brooke was lost to the world, trapped in the undertow of the lake. But then, just as the cold began to numb her senses, something inside her pushed her forward. She kicked, gasped, and clawed her way to the surface, fighting against the icy water, her lungs screaming for air. And when she broke through, when she managed to pull herself to the shore, she was alive, barely. The world around her spun, but she was alive. Luna had done what she set out to do, make it appear as though Brooke had drowned, as though she had fallen in and never made it out. But Brooke had survived. Her body was bruised, her mind foggy, and her memory fading like a dream slipping away with the morning light. She didn't know how long she had been in the water, how long she had fought for her life. But as she staggered to her feet, drenched and disoriented, one thing became painfully clear. She had no idea who she was anymore. Brooke's memory was a patchwork of fragments, each one more distant than the last. The details of the attack, the confrontation with Luna, the cold water, the struggle for survival, were lost in a haze. Her mind refused to focus, her thoughts scattering like leaves in the wind. And yet, beneath the fog of confusion, there was an undeniable instinct, a deep-rooted sense that something was terribly wrong. Luna hadn't just attacked her, she had taken something from her, something Brooke couldn't yet grasp. It wasn't long before the search parties began. Ridge, Taylor Hayes, and the rest of the Logan family scoured the grounds, desperate to find any sign of Brooke. But with no body recovered and no clues left behind, the search was futile. Luna's deception was too well executed. The Forrester family had no idea what had really happened. They could only assume that Brooke had either drowned or been taken by someone else. Ridge and Taylor, both desperate and lost, worked together in a tense, strained alliance, but their hearts were heavy with suspicion. How had Brooke disappeared so suddenly? What had truly happened that night? Was Brooke really gone, or had someone taken her? As the days passed, the family's anxiety turned to grief, and yet, they were left with nothing but questions. The police searched for weeks, but Brooke's absence remained a mystery. It was as though the world had swallowed her whole. Meanwhile, in the shadows, Luna watched the chaos she had created unfold. She knew that if Brooke was to survive, she would need to keep her silent, keep her hidden. But Luna was no fool. She knew that Brooke was a survivor. She had always been. So, instead of leaving things to chance, Luna decided to make sure that Brooke would stay quiet, would stay hidden. She had to make Brooke believe that her only option for survival was to comply. She had to manipulate Brooke into submitting to her will. When Brooke woke, she found herself in a small, dimly lit room. Her body ached from the ordeal, her mind still clouded, but she knew she was alive. And yet she felt nothing. The room around her felt cold, sterile, as though everything she had known was slipping through her fingers. But then Luna's voice cut through the fog. It was soft, almost sweet, but laced with an undercurrent of menace. "You're alive, Brooke. But if you ever want to stay that way, you'll do exactly as I say." Luna stood over her, a cruel smile playing at the edges of her lips. "No one knows you're here. No one knows you're alive. And if you want to keep it that way, if you want to survive, you will keep quiet. You will stay hidden. No one will find you." Brooke, still weak and disoriented, struggled to comprehend what Luna was saying. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Luna's smile widened, her eyes cold and calculating. "Because you have everything I want, Brooke. You have the family, the love, the power. I was always the one who was cast aside, the one who was never good enough. But now I have you. And I'll make sure you stay exactly where I want you. Out of the way." Brooke's heart pounded as Luna's words sank in. She had been thrown into the depths of despair, abandoned by her own memories and trapped in the web Luna had spun. But something inside her refused to accept this fate. Brooke was a fighter. She always had been. She couldn't let Luna win, not like this. As the days passed, Brooke's memories slowly began to return, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. The attack, the lake, Luna's betrayal, all of it came flooding back. But with each memory came a new realization. Luna hadn't just tried to kill her, she had stolen something from her, something far more precious than her life. Luna had taken her identity, her place in the Forrester family, and now she was forcing Brooke into a corner where she couldn't escape. But Brooke wouldn't stay silent for long. With each passing moment, her resolve grew stronger. She would find a way out. She would expose Luna for what she was, an imposter, a liar, a woman who had used Brooke's trust to destroy everything she had built. Brooke wouldn't just survive this nightmare. She would fight back. And when the time came, she would make Luna pay for what she had done. In the meantime, Ridge and Taylor grew closer, their shared worry for Brooke strengthening the bond between them. But even as they searched for answers, the distance between them and the truth seemed to widen. They had no idea that Brooke was closer than they thought, watching from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Forrester family's world was about to be turned upside down, and the fallout from Luna's betrayal would be felt by everyone. As Luna continued to weave her web of lies and deceit, Brooke's plan began to take shape. She would outsmart Luna, expose her lies, and reclaim her place in the family. But first, she had to survive. And in the dark, hidden away from the world, Brooke Logan steeled herself for the fight of her life. The woman who had once been the face of Forrester Creations would return, not as a victim, but as a force to be reckoned with. But as Brooke prepared for her return, Luna was already planning her next move. The game was far from over.